Tremble, mortals, and despair. Doom has come to this world.
Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at how to take down Archimonde, the fifth and final boss of the Mount Hyjal raid. Now when the fight starts, you're going to want to spread out and take positions somewhat similar to this. Now the reason you're going to want to be spread out like this is because Archimonde has an ability called Air Burst. Now this does 1500 nature damage and a 15-yard AoE around his target. Now all affected players are going to be tossed very high into the air. Over 100% of your health will be taken in fall damage as you fall, and it will have a 6-second cooldown used randomly. Now, in order to prevent dying from falling damage, you'll need to use Tears of the Goddess right before you hit the ground. Now, this item is obtained from Tyrande Whisperwind in the Night Elf encampment and is reusable. It has a 10-second cooldown and persists as long as you don't leave the instance. Now, it will not disappear if you run back from the graveyard. If you release Spirit and then get rezzed, however, it will disappear, so be mindful of that. You can also use Levitate as a priest and Slowfall or Blink right before you hit the ground as a mage in order to avoid this falling damage. So make sure to watch out for trees as you're falling, and again, time your abilities right so you don't die or take too much falling damage from this. Now, in each group, you're going to want to have at least one decurser, so a mage or a druid, the two classes that can decurse. And the reason for this is Archimonde's next ability, Grip of the Legion. This does 2,500 damage every 2 seconds for 5 full minutes. It is a curse and it is dispellable and has a 60-yard cast range. This is the easiest mechanic of the fight. Just make sure your druids and your mages are dispelling this curse. Also, since it does only have a 60-yard range, you won't get cursed while airborne from Air Burst, but you could get it right before getting air bursted, so that is why it's important to have a decurser nearby in your group who will also be in the air with you to take that off you. Now, all melee DPS will also want to be away from the tank, because if they get hit by air burst and there are no targets in melee range, Archimonde will cast another one of his abilities called Finger of Death. This does 30,000 shadow damage on a single target and will most certainly cause that target to die. And if someone dies for any reason throughout this fight, Archimonde will get a soul charge, which he can use once at a random time. Depending on which character class created the soul charge, the following effects apply to the entire raid on its use. For a priest, mage, or warlock death, it'll be 4,500 damage to the whole raid, plus a 4-second silence, again, to the entire raid. So it's pretty bad if one of these classes dies, right? Well, if a warrior, rogue, or paladin dies, it's 4,500 physical damage, plus a 4-second damage taken increased by 50% debuff. Huge, right? And then if a druid, shaman, or a hunter dies, it's 4,500 nature damage over 8 seconds, plus a 2,250 mana burn. So if someone does die, a good strategy is for that person to call out, hey, I died, this is what class I am, so everyone knows what's coming and can prepare accordingly. Main tank can use defensive cooldowns, everyone can prepare to use a health stone or healing potion, and healers can prepare for the silence by putting up hots beforehand, etc. Now, this mechanic can be very, very powerful and can snowball out of control, because if someone dies from the soul charge effect, well, then you now have to deal with another soul charge and so on. The cycle can just repeat itself over and over again. Now, another feature of Archimonde is that he never deals crushing blows and swings for about 9,000 to 10,000 damage on a full tier 5 tank. Archimonde also has a 1.5 second cast, 8-second duration raid-wide fear. Now this fear has about a 40-second cooldown and should be cast consistently throughout the encounter. However, it is never used while players are still airborne from airburst. You can and should consider using your PvP trinket to get out of this if you're going to run into a Doomfire or if there is no Tremor Totem nearby. Now you might be wondering, what is Doomfire? Well, Doomfire is a trail of fire moving on the ground away from Archimonde. This is another one of Archimonde's spells. Players entering it get a non-dispellable debuff, which deals initially 2,400 fire damage every 3 seconds, which is reduced by 150 per tick. Now, as long as the player remains in the trail of fire, that debuff is going to be renewed and will be going the full length and will tick for the full 2,400 fire damage every second. This can, however, be removed with Cloak of Shadows, so rogues, you're in luck here. Now, this is a really nasty debuff, so you'll definitely want to steer clear of these. Now, if you're in the ranged group, you'll want to run away from these Doomfires as they trail off instead of sidestepping them, since they can loop back around to the melee group, and if you're melee, Doomfires will never spawn on top of you, always behind, but be on the lookout for when Doomfires start to loop back and come back towards you. Watch the Fear cooldown and make sure you are not near a Doomfire for when Fear gets cast, because if you do get hit by Doomfire, you're going to have to be calling out for extra heals, especially if a soul charge is about to go out. You could be at risk of dying right there. Now, Archimonde's final ability is Hand of Death. This instantly kills everyone. Seems pretty OP, right? Well, this will only be used 9 minutes after Archimonde is engaged, so this is essentially the enrage timer. If you are taking too long to kill him, well, that's a raid wipe. Alternatively, if he reaches Nordrassil, he will also cast Hand of Death, wiping the entire raid. And once you get Archimonde to 10% health, he will begin the next phase. You'll become immune to all damage. Ancient Wisps will come to your aid, and essentially the fight is complete. You just finish him off that last 10%. Archimonde, when defeated, will forfeit this loot as a reward. Congrats, and good luck taking down Archimonde.